फिर मैं यहाँ से अमेरिका से PhD और वहाँ मैंने टीचिंग की, ऑस्ट्रेलिया, न्यूजीलैंड, जापान और आयरलैंड और लंदन में मैं अब सेटल हूँ। वहाँ भी मैंने पढ़ा है कई यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में। तो यहाँ मैं आता रहता हूँ, तो 2-3 महीने रहता हूँ, तो ये इवेंट में एक करता ही रहता हूँ, ये विषय पे और ये इकोनॉमिक्स के विषय पे। और भी लोग बोलने वाले हैं, जिसमें प्रदीप घोष है, रिटायर्ड IAS है, और जो मेरे वहाँ उपाध्याय प्रोफेसर उपाध्याय जो IIT से रिटायर हुए हैं, उनको भी राजस्थान यूनिवर्सिटी और ये लोग हैं।
कोई नई बात हो तो हम सिर्फ डायरेक्टली मैसेज कर देंगे। I think he was fighting sea lord. Probably he didn't want to fight him. हाँ, तो आप बात कर लीजिए कि क्या क्यों तो नहीं करना चाहता है ऐसा। इधर से इंसल्टिंग उसको चाहिए था, उससे बात करता है, उससे कहिएगा डील करने के लिए बात करते हैं। अगर ऐसे करेंगे तो बेसिकली इट्स जस्ट नॉट डन। अभी हम आगे नहीं बढ़ेंगे, ठीक है, बैठिए तो बदतमीजी वही कह रहा हूँ। तो जो लिखा है हमने, मैं उनको लिखता हूँ कि प्लीज डू नॉट रीड द मैसेज विदाउट टॉकिंग टू द पर्सन। ठीक है,
सर आपका यही नंबर है या कोई दूसरा नंबर भी आपका है?
ये नंबर तो है ना
जी,
चलता है।
अच्छा, अभी आप यहीं पे हैं सर, जयपुर में या नहीं?
जी,
अभी जयपुर में
2-3 दिन हैं जी।
थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा।
लगता है ऐसे ही है।
ठीक है,
हम जल्दी आ गए। हाँ, हम जल्दी आ गए।
अरे मुझे
जी सर,
बैठ गया। ठीक है, बनाते
शॉर्ट फिल्म है ना, शॉर्ट फिल्म
कितना खर्चा आ जाता है फिल्म में? कम से कम
शॉर्ट फिल्मों में आधे घंटे की कुल में 50 से 30
जिसमें बड़े सितारे भी उठते हैं।
हाँ अपन लोग
हाँ
बताता हूँ आपको बात करके। चौधरी जी हैं अपने डायरेक्टर, शॉर्ट फिल्में बनाते रहते हैं, वामपंथी से बात करते हैं।
वो पहली बार नहीं, मैं नई स्टोरी लिखा।
हाँ नहीं, हाँ
मैं चाहता हूँ उसको लेना
कर देते हैं। छत्री जी को बोलते हैं, छत्री जी को
मतलब वो बता दूँ मैं कि वो रोबोट बेस्ड है।
अच्छा, रोबोट एंड एआई, रोबोट एंड एआई,
एआई
रोबोटिक्स।
और इस पर है कि इसमें डील करता है ये जो भावनाएं हैं की क्रोध की।
बड़े भाई
आइए
कैसे हैं?
बस
गुड टू सी यू।
मेरे खुदा के बैठ गया।
स्थायी अध्यक्ष।
ये सब की बात नहीं।
सुरेश जी ने मुझे पकड़ लिया। अच्छा मोहम्मद हसन कैसे
सारे झगड़ों की जड़ होना चाहिए,
भावना ही होता है। बहुत अच्छा सब्जेक्ट है।
काम करता है।
तैयार होगी स्टोरी, स्टोरी तैयार हो गई है पूरी?
स्टोरी करीब तैयार है। तो तुम तैयार कर लो।
पता नहीं क्या होती शायद थोड़ी अच्छी
तो बताऊँगा आपको।
तुम लेके आता हूँ डायरेक्टर को आपको।
उसका कहना यह है कि शादी जो होती है वो फिजिकल, शारीरिक और सामाजिक आवश्यकता है। वो तो होनी चाहिए। ये समझता है
टाइम तो लॉन्ग
वही लेते हैं। बीमार हो जाती है वो, चिंता आती है उसे, तो तब खुश होती है।
बहुत शानदार सब्जेक्ट है।
उसके बाद रोबोट को तैयार करता है टाइम आता है
CSRD में था वो जाता है बेसिकली जॉब
तो ये होता है इसमें काम करता है। लेकिन ये रोबोट है से काम करता है, खड़ा हुआ वेट कर रहा है हमारे
अच्छा उसको तो मैंने इनाम दिया
मैं लेके आता हूँ फिर डायरेक्टर से बात करके आपसे मिलाऊंगा ना।
ये है थीम।
हाँ समझ गया। वेरी गुड स्टोरी लेके आता हूँ मैं कुछ
जी जी
मेरे खुद जाके बैठ गए।
जी 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 बताएं ना आपको फ्री मिला है
हमारे मतलब मेंटोर और सब 1970 से
जी अरे वाह
रहे हुए हैं सदस्य अब 92 में चल रहा है।
हम एक्टिंग वहाँ से प्रेरणा लेना चाहते हैं। हमारे अच्छे मित्र हैं बेबी, आजकल बेबी देख रहे हैं ना काम पार्टी का, अलेक्जेंडर बेबी। अच्छा
I welcome you all and today's event is a lecture in the memory of Professor Devendra Kaushik, who passed away a few years ago. On the 1st of March 2026, he would have been 92. And unfortunately, unfortunately, last year his wife also passed away. She by nationality. We have the speakers, as you know. Prem Krishan ji is our chair, who is going to chair today's proceedings. And he has all the veto power to stop me and other people. but not like Donald Trump. Professor Upadhyay, Upadhyay, who retired from the IIT Delhi. He was an assistant professor here in the Rajasthan University and my classmate since 69. And he left Rajasthan University and did a PhD from Canada, and then he got a job in IIT Delhi. He retired from there. He's on his way. Unfortunately, on his speeding, his driver got a ticket, so he might be here around 3:45. Then we have my dear friend Satish Jha, whom I met in 1976 when I joined Jawaharlal Nehru. And it is a coincidence, he was classmate of Sitaram Yechuri, who was the General Secretary of the Communist Party, Marxist. But during my stay, very short stay, 1 year at Jawaharlal Nehru University, and when the emergency was revoked, I got my job back in the Rajasthan University, which I lost in 75. We used to socialize every day. As you know, I believe in 100 flower blossom and 1,000 school of thought content. So we got along very well, though we disagree on a number of issues. But our comrades, leftists there, they did socialize very much with him, as usual, because of rigidities, ideological. So since then, we lost the contact. Once he came to Jaipur with a group of students, and we took him to tour of the Jaipur and Amir Clark and all those places. After that, we came to know each other from the Facebook. The Facebook has been very useful after 35 years or 40 years, maybe longer than that. So in that respect, the Facebook is very useful. And since then, he has been here. We organized an event, a K.C. Swami, K.C. Swami was a leading journalist. So we had a K.C. Swami memorial lecture in Canadian College. And his daughter is an associate professor in Canadian College. And we organized an event, and Satish was there in that event. Prakirti was also there in that event, many other people. So he's there, he's going to speak. And our third speaker was Professor Arun Kumar, who, as you must have seen, the only economist I rely on his data, with a big long beard, and he retired from the Jawaharlal Nehru University. And unfortunately, yesterday his sister-in-law passed away, so he can't make it or not even available online. So we are going to miss him. Then the next speaker is Pradeep Ghosh. Pradeep Ghosh is a very senior IAS officer who retired as an environment secretary, who was, I came to know him in Pittsburgh when I was working on my PhD, and they came under some Humphrey scholarship in which Abhimanyu Singh from here was there, and his wife Meenakshi, they were all there in Pittsburgh. So he is the one person who is keeping in touch with me constantly, so he will be available unfortunately we don't have a video facility, so we are going to have some arrangement of listening to him on my laptop. So we'll see how it goes. And then there was a very young and terrific speaker, Swasti Rao, who has been to Jaipur many times, and I intercepted her from the television. Because she speaks very fluently and she has been to Jaipur many times. She is also traveling from Chandigarh to Delhi by car, taxi. So I'm not sure whether she will be available by that time or not. And as you know, I don't need any introduction because most of the people we meet on a constant daily basis, but I have the interest of organizing these events. When I stay 2-3 months here in Jaipur, I always try to organize an event. So, Kaushik, I want to say a few words about the Kaushik and then we'll proceed. Professor Kaushik has a very terrific background, and he actually did his master's, MA, LLB and PhD from Lucknow, and then he went to Moscow. And there for another doctorate under some exchange programs at the Oriental Studies, and he did his PhD under academician Gafur, who was the member of the Central Committee of the CPSU, and he was the only Stalinist that time left. While he was there, his father was a good friend of Chaudhry Charan Singh, and he often told his father, "आपका बच्चा बिगड़ गया है, इसको वापस लाओ, कम्युनिस्ट हो गया." So that was used the dialogue. Then what happened is he was already married. This is a pretty interesting background, and his brother-in-law was a member of parliament. So he complained to the Prime Minister Nehru that he was engaging with a Russian woman there. So his passport was impounded and he was not allowed to go anywhere. And then Somnath Chatterjee's father was a leading lawyer and I think was president of the Hindu Mahasabha. He actually represented him in the Supreme Court and got his passport restored. And then everything, followed. Then after that he got a associate professor in the Rajasthan University in the history department, and he stayed here until 79. Then he got a job as a full professor in Jawaharlal Nehru University in the Russian and Asian studies, and there he retired from there, but he was very active. Now he has written over 100 articles and 40 books translated in at least dozens of languages, and the foreword of his book was written right from left to right, starting with Achyuta Menon, the then Chief Minister of Kerala, then Mrs. Gandhi, Chandrasekhar, and VP Singh. There was not a single Prime Minister whom he did not interact. In fact, including Atal Bihari Vajpayee, despite his divergent views. And he actually said and produced about 100 PhDs, but unfortunately, you can imagine, not a single his PhD student is present. You can imagine, I tried hard to contact everybody, but I don't know what is it, including one DGP, Balwant Singh was his PhD from Rajasthan University and many others. Yeah, that's a different matter. And he has written in articles published in Pravda, University, many national and international newspapers. And one time I asked him, he asked me, do you know why Gandhi picked Nehru over Patel as Prime Minister? So I said I should my ignorance because I'm not a historian, I didn't know, old enough to know what was going on then. So I said, you tell me why he picked Nehru over Patel. His telling response was, had he picked Patel, he would talk right and go right. You understand right ideology? Capitalist path.
He picked Nehru because Nehru will talk left and go right. That's why he picked. He said because the people are poor in India, the path of capitalism will not suit them. So talking left is more appropriate for actually keeping the Congress party intact. Whatever he does for the encouraging investment or industries, and you can imagine during the Congress regime, I wrote a paper in 1974, there were 10 monopoly capitalists developed in India at the time. So that was the analysis of his. Now, he actually, when he left here, he joined Jawaharlal University, he joined the Congress Socialist Party with Bahuguna. And Bahuguna, actually, prior to this living here, you will know that the two founders of the Communist Party of India, Adhikari and Muzaffar Ahmad, they were the founders of the Communist Party in 1924. He actually researched in Moscow, actually the origin of the Communist Party, because it was found there in Tashkent. And both communists have written a chapter on him, Dr. Kaushik's contribution to the research on the founding of the Communist Party. Muzaffar Ahmad of the CPM, myself and the Communist Party, and Adhikari, History of the Communist Party of India. Both have one chapter of knowledge. However, my leftist friend abandoned him, rejected him because there was a photo of him with Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So now he no longer is untouchable. So that is the kind of, things go. Then he joined Congress Socialist Party, and there was some divergence, dispute between Bahuganaji and Chaudhary Sahab. Both were hot-headed. And on the birthday of Chaudhary Charan Singh, actually he persuaded Bahuganaji to attend his birthday party. So the journalists were very curious, and they wanted to know what happened and what will happen to. So they asked Chaudhary Sahab, what do you think about your foreign policy and Bahugana's socialism? His telling response was, ask Bahugana. So you can imagine the input, the understanding that he created, that he has so much confidence in his rival that he referred to press to Bahugana. The other thing, which is revealing, which I couldn't find in the history books, M.N. Roy used to be a very veteran communist who traveled to Moscow and met Lenin, and he gave alternative thesis. And he told me about him that after the independence of India, Nehruji called him, and he wasn't there, so his wife, he had a German wife, and he asked her whether he can write the history of the Congress Party. She didn't know the background. She said yes, he will be happy to write that. But when he came and found out, he was furious about it. And he wrote a letter to Nehruji, why should I write the history of the Congress Party, who declared communists as anti-national during the independence period, so he rejected it. Now I can't find anywhere in the Google or anywhere this kind of information which he used to have. So with this brief background, actually I missed him, although I was never his student. I was an economist, he was in history. But we were in constant touch. Whenever I came from US or he came to US, I organized his lectures. I was, until I couldn't be present when he died, but every year we used to meet and exchange the views. He was a very friendly person and helped almost everybody, regardless of ideological beliefs. He helped everybody whoever approached him. But he was a controversial figure in jail. Probably my friend Satish will know more about him than I do, because I left India in 1982. So with this brief background of him, before Professor Upadhyay comes here, I invite Satish Jha to say something about our topic of today, the strategy sabotage the tariffs offense and India's managed diplomatic sorry, I'm reading different. The topic is here, ripple effect of tariffs,
Reshaping global trade.
Reshaping global trade. Please.
The ripple effects of Trump tariffs.
Thank you very much. I thought given the community here, we should have been sitting and talking. What do you say?
Oh, well, yeah, that's fine. Yes, yes, please. Yes.
ये ऑन होगा क्या?
ये भी
ऑन होगा. Hello. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Shree, and thank you, Dr. I don't think anybody had imagined what Trump has wrought. Could have imagined. Normally, societies go from chaos to order. They go from a lack of thinking to better understanding and create norms, create how to handle situations that crop up. They look at future. They try to learn from present and develop a deeper sense of a broader sense of history. But then when someone gets into a situation of power without readiness, which means that by and large most people who became presidents of America, they had been congressmen somewhere, state level, maybe even city level. And then they come to the Central Congress, House of Representatives. From there, they graduate to Senate. Some they come from the route of Attorney General, then Governor, then Senate, and then maybe Vice President and President. There are some paths which are kind of evolved to the presidency, which means you develop enough capacities, experiences, manage situations of people and policies, and you have done a few things, you have survived, you have succeeded, you have failed, you have learned, and you've been beaten up, and you have finally evolved to a point that people think you are ready for the big job. But then somebody comes into the play who basically says, no rules apply to me. So here's a person, rules don't apply to him. I remember the day he decided to come down from his tall Trump Towers, which is very gilded. Now, in these times, gilded things in America are not seen very contemporary, but he loves gold. Now he's turned White House into the House of Gold. Oval Room has become golden. When he came down, in fact, I had a partnership at that time with the Attorney General of the US during George Bush's time. So there was a man called John Ashcroft, who had again taken the same path. He was local Attorney General, became Governor, became Senator, then became US Attorney General. And when he left that office, later on we met and we created a company called Ashcroft and Jha. And that gave us an opportunity to talk to each other sometimes. So I told him that I'm afraid of this man changing the rules of the game in a way that may not be great for the country. He said, oh, he's just a sewer bubble basically. July is the month when many candidates come and go. We'll disappear soon. My point was even then, I'm afraid it may not be the case because those who disappear, they are part of the same ecosystem and they're trying to test it out, and somebody succeeds and others fail. It's like one of those relay races or some kind of a game where many run and one person gets past the post. But in this case, he is not a politician, he's not a public person. He will not play by the rules of the game the way they have been laid down, and he'll try to change the game. That's my fear. He said, no, don't worry about it. And I said, fine, you have experience, and I'm just looking at it, how such people perform. And I forgot about it. Then December, this was in June, July of 2015, we again meet at lunch, and then he says, this guy's friend, Trump's friend, good friend, he lives in France, he's also my good friend. So a person who thought he was dismissible suddenly is looking for friendship with him. Because if you don't have friendship with President of America, you have been Attorney General yourself. And John Ashcroft's reputation is that he said no to George Bush. And people, when you say John Ashcroft, people say he was a good Boy Scout who could say no to the President of America. That's a great reputation he has. And now he's looking for friendship with Donald Trump through his friends. So I knew this is what, that means that world has accepted him and he's going to go as far as he can. But I was hoping that, against all hopes that he may not, but then I went around the town, country, one evening about almost midnight, I was sitting in a lounge in California, and there were 6 or 7 elderly people. They were all above 70, 75. They're all Democrats. California is a wholly democratic state. They're all Democrats. And they were talking about Trump. And they felt that Trump should be a change. I sit in taxis and taxi drivers tell me, I've never voted Republican, but I think this time I will. I began noticing that change. Something was happening. Democrats were not able to get their message across, or they had been there for some time. They've been there for 8 years. Was it Obama? Was it his government which could not tell people what all good he had done? He had done the best economy of all presidents I knew at that time. But his message wasn't reaching people, somehow or the other. And people were saying they could vote. I said, well, so I had concluded well before November of 2016 that Trump may win. Trump didn't believe he'll win. He didn't even believe on the last night, the night of election, that he'll win. But Clinton, she made some very basic mistakes. America is a country where, division is almost 50-50. 50 Democrats, 50 Republicans. It becomes 49-51. It's to that level. And then there are states which are along the right side and left side along the ocean, and some in the middle. So middle is all Republican, and the ocean side is all Democratic. It's a very interesting thing. People living close to ocean, water, they are Democratic. People away from water, they're all Republicans, conservatives. But it's a question of number of states, the way the election happens. So each state has a certain number. That number of delegates will be sent to the electoral final electing body. So people vote. So if one state, so say there are 1,000 votes, the one who gets 501 is going to win. In other state, if you get 499 and 501, you get half the candidate, other part gets half the candidate. In one case, you get all of them, depending on how it is. So strategy is about figuring it out, how do I get to the middle plus one? And it's about path to presidency. They keep working on it. Hillary Clinton's strategy team was overconfident, they made a mistake. And if you miss 2, you're gone. So that's what happened a couple of weeks. And then when Trump was woken up, he said, well, too bad, she didn't think of these 2 states, so I won. That's what he said, because he didn't expect to win, but he won. Very first thing he did, if you remember, was he said, no Muslim will be allowed to come to USA. The first thing he did. People were totally shocked. Paris climate, finished. Many things, these are the first, second days executive orders he started creating. And that's what he was. And people thought, what's happened? He's gone mad or what? But he was already mad. He is not a person who works for the country or the people. He works for himself. Today, America's situation is very simply this. It's a very transactional state. Transactional means no president. I'll give you an example. It's a real situation. In the state of Illinois, which has Chicago as its capital, not capital but major city, Chicago, there was a Republican governor who sponsored a study which showed later on that more than half of people who had been executed by law, had there been a DNA test, would have been acquitted. So therefore, this kind of sentence should be banned, and he banned death sentences in Illinois. Republicans were so upset with him, they found a very small reason to harass him. They harassed their own governor, who left the office, for a small golf ticket somebody gave him, and that's a crime. A governor of Illinois was convicted because a friend of his gave him a golf ticket, which he did not report, and that became a crime. You're looking at that kind of probity, and now you come to Trump. In the 5 years of presidentship, there is not one day when millions of dollars are not exchanging hands. His children are the way, today we all know, if you want to do anything, you want somebody to be pardoned, go to his children, pay some money. You want to be ambassador somewhere, you pay some money, you get the ambassadorship. List is ready. It's never happened before. And nobody is able to do anything about it because he is the president. The Supreme Court has said that can't be prosecuted because he has supreme power. So he has the backing of Supreme Court because the first thing he did was find a way to have majority in the Supreme Court. As long as Supreme Court is 5 and 4, 4 and 4, and Chief Justice, there's a possibility that a judgment will be this way or that way. But when you have 6-3, there's very little chance judgment will be any which way. It will be only one way, which is Trump's way, by and large. That's what's happened. Anything he says, lower courts basically say something, and he will go to Supreme Court. Why am I giving a background? In this backdrop, we come to the point of trade, etc. So we finally have a president who has been given almost, he can do no wrong by Supreme Court. He can't be indicted, he can't be convicted for anything he does in presidency, whatever he does. So he can do anything. Like he said when he went for election in 2015, if I shoot somebody in the middle of Manhattan, nothing will happen to me. Nobody has had. And he said these things openly. Nothing will happen to me. And then you heard those kind of expressions of Trump about the way he treated women, the way he talked about them. Now we have Epstein files. Epstein files because, so background to that is also very important before we come to trade. You see, trade is a very small matter in the larger scheme of things. It can be handled, but you're looking at a very different, much higher orbit. What is that higher orbit? There's a country called Israel. Israel was created by UK and US at one point in time, and they created land and so on and so forth, the landmass, and these people come, they start displacing the locals, etc. They start throwing them away into open prison called Gaza. Now, to do that, they had to do many things. They had to create a credibility for their own community, which we worked very hard. So until not too long back, we were all thinking, no, Israel is a good country, the Jews are good people, Palestinians and they have been problems. That's what the kind of logic was. But finally today in America, 70% people think, 70% Jews think that Israel should not exist as a state. Because Israel has given them such a bad name that nobody spits on Jews now anymore. Because Netanyahu has done that. But they have something called Mossad. If you look at senators like Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, they openly say, it is our duty to protect Israel. If you speak against Israel, you will be jailed. in a country where there's a freedom of expression, that is the Article 1 of faith. Even in that country, if you speak for Palestinians or against Israel, you are imprisoned. Even in that country. It's happening in UK, it's happening in Germany. Foreign Minister just 2 days back, she said, it is our duty to protect ourselves and therefore to protect Israel. So Israel has been controlling America, and now Netanyahu's videos are out where he says, we are controlling America, we control American presidency, we control American Senate, we control American Congress. And how was it done? Because what happens is, you heard of a case of mafia bosses in America. So to prosecute a mafia boss who has killed 40 people, to show that he has killed 40 people is very difficult. So they said, well, we have to get him. How do you get him? So they went for the lowest level of crime called wire fraud. Means when you send a wire from one otherwise just fine person, and one day you were in Epstein's apartment and something like that happened, now you're caught. And when you're caught, you're finished, you immediately have to resign. And you will be inside the jail. So nobody can speak against Israel at all. So whatever Netanyahu says, whatever Israel says, that became fait accompli. And now you see, they've been saying that openly. That first thing, the Jews are the chosen one. Who chose them? God. They're above us. Israel is a place, Bible says so. This chapter, this verse, Bible says so. Our job is to protect Israel. Now Israel can do anything and you will not see. Israel can kill 1 million, you can't see. They're killing 1-month-old child. They're shooting them right there. They have shot a 4-year-old with 32 bullets. And no Jew is basically thinking of that. And the world can't even talk about it. If you talk about it, then you are committing a crime that state can go after you. So Israel can commit a crime and makes talking about it a criminal too. That's a very beautiful situation for them. That's what has trapped him. In that situation, nobody can speak against Trump. Nobody can speak against. Now he can do anything. If he says you're a bad man, he says he has decided to prosecute generals, court-martialing. These are generals. A general who became senator, he's prosecuting him. So he fired admirals, he fired anyone, and he cannot prosecute anyone. There are people who left army 8 years back. General Mike Milley is afraid he might be prosecuted. This is the kind of, and of course, as you saw, Comey was the FBI director. He said, when I went to see the president, I felt I was meeting a mob boss. He wrote it. He wrote it officially in the FBI diary. Mob boss. It's as bad as it gets. So that situation, he behaves like a mob boss, whether your name is Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Narendra Modi, or anybody except Putin and Netanyahu. Netanyahu is a good boy, and Putin is a great man. Netanyahu says, I control the guy. In this case, he can do anything he likes. So what did he do? Tariff war. Comes with tariff. So it begins with 25%. Now you haven't heard of 25% rates. Where is WTO? We have an order. We have international law. There's a World Trade Organization. You just can't raise the rates like that. If you want to raise the rates like that, you come to WTO. What's WTO? What's WTO? Have you heard of it in past 1 year? Nobody has seen WTO name anywhere in newspapers or any TV, etc. It's finished. When he said Paris climate, it was, then Biden brought it back. But again, we are out. United Nations, you think they have power to do anything? Nothing. United Nations no power to do anything. So right now, because the topic is tariff, so WTO. I'll take you back to one interaction I had with the US trade representative, who is of the rank of a cabinet minister. And America has only, I think, 16 members of cabinet. I think 8 are full cabinet, 8 are deemed cabinet, something like that. USTR is a deemed cabinet minister. And they treat every country like they can, ride roughshod anytime they choose.
And that was a time when every time Uruguay round, post-Uruguay round, I know about Uruguay round, the guy says, well, we will get what we want on agriculture. I said, you may have tough time. Of course, you may think you will get. It's very difficult for them to agree. It's a political kind of situation which most countries cannot handle. How will you get it? So that's how they created, if you go back in time, about 80 countries in the past 80 odd years since World War II, they have seen regime change thanks to United States. And most regime change was because of same tariff issues. What is tariff issue? If you have to import cigarettes, if you put any levy on that, I will topple your government. How is the government toppled? So CIA's job was to make sure that there's covert operation. What is covert operation? What they do is, so for instance, they are normally a good pick for them is someone who is conservative, someone who is willing to do things that liberals can't do, means kill, someone who is willing to engage in practices which people who have morals will not do. So they go for the like you see American conservative. They talk about lower government, smaller government, they make the government big. They talk about morals and they accept a man who is the most immoral as the president. So whatever they say, they do just the opposite of that in real life. That's what Republicans are, that's what conservatives are supposed to be. So in that sense, I would say a party like BJP will be a good example for CIA to deal with. A party like Liberal, like Congress, will be a difficult example for them too. But they deal with every party. They deal with communists also. They try to deal with everyone. Anybody who is more authoritarian, the better. And they have dealt with CPM and CPI and other parties, and you'll be surprised when I do nuclear stuff. I got to know the negotiations CPM had with the US government to just let this go on. But those are things, if you talk about it, there'll be a problem. So you don't talk about it. But if we are talking about understanding things, we're not talking about accusing anyone. This is what real life is. That even CPM from India tried to negotiate something out of it, some monetary benefit in letting the nuclear stuff go. Because they had the power at that time, given the coalition government of Manmohan Singh, this happened and this was news inside. Now, maybe true, maybe not be true, I'm no one to say anything, but this was the conversations. So they like those things. So CIA does these things. So that's how they do regime change. And regime change happens, and about 80 odd has happened since World War II. And they're all around tariff. So now on tariff, he begins this. Why does he begin with something? Because now let's look at the trade situation, broadly speaking. I'm not going to be precise about anything because that doesn't help us, our analysis. Today, China is the biggest trader in the world, bigger than America. Because Chinese economy, China is the manufactory of the world. It manufactures everything. So percentage-wise, its percentage of the GDP that's traded is the highest in the world. How much is it? $4 trillion of trade? China out of the 18 trillion of GDP, which is about, compared to 2 trillion of 30 trillions for America. I mean, China is the biggest trader as such. Even for us, China is a massive trader. We are only dealing about close to $100 billion with the US, and we are running, I mean, that's one-way trade. So two ways about, given the deficit, etc. We are less than 200, right, with the US somewhere. And there's a deficit in the sense America seems to import more than India imports from, and that's been the problem. So, but the problem was not just that. He had, in the beginning, in the first 2-3 months, he turned tariff as his foreign policy. And then it was like, kind of high today, low tomorrow, and there was no particular pattern. Effectively, it's not a policy. A policy is, well, we consider various parameters. Based on that, this will make sense. Probably that we can negotiate on this. And those are normal, reasonable things. Okay, fine, this lobby is very active and they want to, let's see how far we can go with this. There's no how far we can go with it. It's just dictation, straight away. I want you to pay 100%, I want you to pay 150%. This is the way American trade tariff policy began happening. And there was no way anybody could respond. Somebody who squeaked, he doubled it. Oh, I see you said something about me? Okay, fine, you pay 50%. This is the way American trade policy is being run. Well, is there a policy there? No. I am the policy. I'm President Trump. I'm the policy. I decide the policy. Whatever I say is policy. No rules apply to me. Supreme Court can do nothing. No court cases. Congress can do nothing. Senate can do nothing. They are Republican. Oh, you don't want to vote for me? Oh, fine. I'll take care of you. And do you want to come back? Oh, fine. So this is the way it's being negotiated. So effectively, America is today a very lawless state, if one can say that. But there are institutions which have not broken apart, so they keep talking about it. Of course, Democrats, senators and congressmen, they keep talking, and there are conversations. Some newspapers talk about. By the way, there is no editorial in Wall Street Journal on Venezuela. No editorial. WHO hasn't published an editorial. And New York Times, Washington Post, very neutral. As if it was just an event that happened and yeah, they said this and they said that. That's nothing. New York Times took a slightly, very, very minor to the reasoning kind of position. Guardian of UK became the first one to basically, totally question. Economist, kam si kam sa. This is what the world is today. Countries which have spoken, obviously Latin America. So Latin America became the biggest, you can say, loser in the whole process. Don't forget, every country depends on trade with America. It's a very important dollar, because they need dollar. Dollar for buying oil, dollar for buying anything. So they need that trade to happen. And Donald Trump knows that. So what did he do? There is no policy. So negotiation happens. You go and take care of one of his sons, whichever we can access. Okay, fine, we'll take care of your countries. Lobbies became very, very fat and important in the process. So when you talk about policy, then we can have a policy and reasoned conversation. When it's all somebody's whims and fancy, what are we talking about? So this is going to go on until November of 2026. When elections happen for Congress, if Democrats come back to House of Representatives and Senate, if they get both, that's when they will take the charge of policy making at the Congress level. Because policy making is the job of committees which combine the executive office of the President and the Congress. And Congress in America means both Senate plus House. So Senate and House combined is called Congress. So power of the executive power resides between President and Congress. President can't act without Congress, so oversight. So for instance, if I am the Senate leader and the cabinet minister comes, I'm the supervisor of in corporate language, I'm the dotted line supervisor. President is the hard line and the dotted line. So still I'm supervisor. But when Attorney General of Trump goes to Senate, he shouts at senators. Or she shouts. FBI guy Kash Patel, he shouts at senators. No response. So they've been told to misbehave because Trump has said, now Trump grew up in that world, but he says, if somebody attacks you, attack them twice as hard. Be it normal conversation. So that's why when a journalist talks to him, question, where are you from? Oh, you're a fake. So he doesn't let, and this is all camera. So you start seeing here's a deranged personality, mentally deranged. What is he meant for? I, me and myself. Is my son benefiting, daughter benefiting? Am I benefiting anyway? Is it creating wealth for me or not? If it's not, it's a bad thing. Very simple. When he says, oh, nobody respects us, means if you say something, they don't give you money. Now what's he doing? Honduras president was indicted and convicted of drug dealing. He pardoned him. Then he said, but Venezuela is doing drug dealing, but Venezuela had no. He said the boats we are shooting at, they were going other direction. Why would you shoot at them? They're not coming to America. Effectively, there's no law and order, there's no rule, whatever he thinks. A total chaos. In that, can there be tariff policy? None. But we still have to negotiate. How do you negotiate? You figure out what are the hot buttons, which buttons you must press to get past you, because we have to run our economy. To run our economy, you got to do everything that's possible. And that means we could be practical. So we go to his lobbyists, we go to people whom he listens to, and we take care of them whichever way. Maybe we have to pay the fees. Call it a fee. Call it whatever you want. But you got to take care of it. You can't bribe anybody, but you can say, fine, we'll pay this fee, that fee, etc., etc., take care of it. You figure it out. But we have to become smarter in dealing with the system. And I wrote after Venezuela kidnaps, rather, this is really worse than a thug.